So MORNE National Park was our next stop, where the cliffs of the Long Range Mountains tower over the freshwater fjords and then change into coastal lowlands sweeping out to the Gulf of the St. Lawrence. Every hike we experienced offered a different geological experience. Our first night in MORNE, we ventured out after setting up camp for sunset at Lobster Head Lighthouse. This is truly a favorite location for sunset, as the parking lot quickly filled with families to experience the magical sunset at this location. There are several short hiking trails at the site that take you to some gardens, a seaside beach, and the loop around the lighthouse. As I set up my tripod to capture whatever the sunset had to offer this evening, it was my friend Lisa that was in my thoughts so deeply that I could feel her presence, as we've shared so many sunsets and sunrises shooting together. So Lisa, this one's for you.
So on our second day at GROS MORNE, we decided not to hike GROS MORNE, which means Little Hill, but it's not a very little hill. It's about a 6-hour hike. We chose instead to do this beautiful coastal trail that went between two small coastal towns, Baker's Brook and Green Point. We saw cormorants, and we saw eider ducks and some terns, and we saw trees that were short and bent over called tuckamores because of the harsh winds. It was a beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful hike.
Decided to take a hike on the Baker's Brook Trail, which was quite long, but it led to a beautiful double cascading waterfall on Baker's Brook. It was on this trail that we learned that moose are not native to Newfoundland, or were not native to Newfoundland. In 1904, 4 moose were transported from New Brunswick to Newfoundland to provide wild meat for families in remote communities. And today there are over 120,000 moose present in Newfoundland. And we did, in fact, see several during our travels on the island.
On the next day, we drove to the Tablelands, which is a world-renowned geological site. Actually, with continental shift, the stones you're looking at here are actually from the Earth's core, which was amazing to see. We also saw evidence of snow that's year-round at the tip of that valley. So essentially, we're looking at a small glacier in Newfoundland.
Afternoon at GROS MORNE, we took a nice little hike up on the Berry Hill Pond Trail, where there was a lot of evidence of moose activity. It also gave us an appreciation for the variety of the landscape that we saw in Newfoundland, and where we could be hiking on a coastline at one minute, other times it was in the thick boreal forest amongst ancient rock formations, as well as seeing waterfalls. It was just beautiful, beautiful landscape all around us, at every possible turn that we took and every hike that we experienced. So while we were in northern Newfoundland, we saw 3 very interesting things along the side of the road that we had not been seeing in any other parts of Newfoundland. It really was only in the very, very northern sections of Newfoundland. This first one was pretty much all along the highway and secondary roads as well too. It was constant. You would see these fenced in areas. They looked like gardens, but some of them had been tilled. Some of them had some plants growing. Some looked like they hadn't been tilled for years. And every fencing was a little different, and we couldn't quite understand what they were.
And there were no houses around. Not
no
for
houses.
Like 10 miles.
I mean, they weren't like gardens or anything in front of a house.
Yeah.
They were just randomly all along the highway and secondary roads. And then we finally figured out what they were and why they were there.
We did. Why they were there, we learned, is that when they built the highway, they cleared all the rocks in the culverts and near the highway, and people realized they could plant a garden there for free and not have to move any rocks, and it was good soil.
Yeah, and so that's basically their garden for the summer, which, because of the environment here, they really only grow root vegetables there. But you just walk up, claim whatever garden space you want, and it's yours for the year. And you can go pick a different one the next year or whatever, but they're free garden space. We thought that was kind of a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, occasionally we saw somebody actually tilling their garden.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Along the
for
side
sure.
of the road.
Yeah, and here's a picture of what that looked like.
So one of the other sites we saw along these highways, again, no houses within miles and miles, were these excellent cut wood piles.
Yeah,
cut to
very
length,
evenly stacked and
beautifully stacked. Cut to length for what we thought was probably firewood.
Mm-hmm.
But where were the people? Where were the houses? We couldn't figure this out. Later we found out.
Yeah, so these wood piles were also sometimes near these gardens we were just talking about, but sometimes they were just totally separate, but they were all along the highways. And then we found out by talking to someone that you as an individual living in northern Newfoundland can pay the forestry department $21 every year, go in and cut the wood, stack it, and you get up to 10 cords of wood for $21 a year. And that's your wood supply for the year. Most people heat their homes. Some of them even cook with wood here in northern Newfoundland. But we thought, what a deal. $21, 10 cords of wood.
Yeah, that would probably, 10 cords of wood would probably cost us about $1,500
Something
back
like
in
that.
New England.
Maybe over 2,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool concept. Yeah. Okay, and the final thing that we were seeing through the towns we would go through, which were mostly like little cove, harbor type towns that we would go through, we would see lines and lines of boxes at the ends of the driveways. Sometimes there was one box, sometimes two. Yeah. They were typically very colorful, all different shapes.
Octagonal shape mostly.
Well, some of them, some were square. Yeah. Some even looked like a lighthouse. I mean, there were like a lot of varied designs to them. And so we would just start talking as we were driving about driving. What could these boxes be for? Well,
what did you think they were, Linda?
So I thought these boxes were like for Amazon deliveries. Steve thought these boxes were for
probably for trash pickup. Yeah. No, she didn't think so. So then when we got to St. Anthony Harbor, we found this guy on the dock who was
a local,
and we got some local knowledge from him. And I said, hey, what are those boxes about that we see, those colorful boxes? I said, she thinks they're Amazon boxes. I think they're for trash. He had the biggest grin on his face because he knew that Linda was wrong. They were for trash, and he told us, and we had a big old laugh about that.
They were for trash, but people put a lot of effort into designing these boxes and painting them.
How many Amazon trucks did we see in Newfoundland?
One.
We saw one when we were coming into the harbor.
All right, that was it. So I guess they're not for Amazon deliveries. They are actually for trash.
So what do you say?
Steve, you were right this time.
Once,
okay. Yes, all right. Bye.